right, so we're trying out this, getting started with doing a YouTube discussion here. This is going to be my first one that I've ever done. And I know, David, you said that you were trying to get into this too. So we're both on our maiden voyage.
Yep. This will be
And
interesting.
we'll see how this goes. We don't know each other really at all. We're both just kind of like had a little small talk before this started. So we met each other virtually on Facebook in a discussion. Was it in the Jordan Peterson Christian?
I believe so, yes.
Jordan Peterson Christian Study Group.
So
I'm part of a lot of Jordan Peterson groups. I'm like weird like that.
I'm part of a lot of groups, just period. But yeah, it was the Jordan Peterson Christian Study Group.
Good, cool. And yeah, we got into a little discussion. I can't remember what it was originally on, but it ended up getting into the Great Commission. And I think it was, I am not like a proponent of evangelism per se anymore. And then you brought up the thing about the Great Commission. And before we get into that, I guess like this is customary for YouTube is, why don't you give a little bit of background of yourself so I guess our audiences will know or whatever.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I'm David Wolcott. I'm an amateur Christian apologist. I've been studying, or I've been doing Facebook apologetics for about 10 years now. I've been studying apologetics for 5 or 6 years. I'm almost entirely self-taught, but I just read voraciously. One of my primary studies is on the context of the Bible, the cultures, the origin of the documents, the general reliability of the documents. I've been getting into the early church fathers and the development of church tradition as of recently. But otherwise, I just read whatever I can, listen to whatever I can, and that's about it.
Okay. I see you have a lot of books behind you. Are those all like related to this type of topic, or is what kind
of? The ones that are in screen, not even remotely. So my library extends out the other side of the wall. All of these are Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and guides and different things. All of these are various kinds of nonfiction, memoirs, dictionaries. There's a small stack of the guides for dummies that you can see.
Okay.
I do have some theology books in the corner. In my physical library, I don't have as much theology and philosophy as I have other stuff. But then in my digital libraries, I have thousands of resources from all different time periods, traditions, denominations, religions.
And then what was it that got you into apologetics and made you wanted to be like a amateur apologist?
I was raised as a Christian. I stayed in there, and then throughout my late teen and early 20s, I encountered I had first encountered my non-Christians, as it were. I was in Christian schools throughout all my life, and so I had my first encounters with the world, and I had 1 or 2 weeks of some classes and seminars that I attended that introduced me to apologetics, and then I met the people who don't believe in Christianity and realized or started learning about other views.
How old were you? How old were you in it?
This was late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
And just through growing with her, I mean, I've always been fascinated with truth and pursued truth. And as a result of that development, it led me into, I need to know whether what I believe actually is true, and pursue the truth. And then that's grown from simply reinforcing what I do believe by reading other Christian material into, I'm currently doing a multi-volume study on Islam. I've read a number of atheists, Buddhist apologetic material, and I'm expanding to verify that what I believe actually is true. I currently believe it is sincerely true and in a meaningful way, and thus I'm interested in defending it and demonstrating why it's true.
Okay. Out of curiosity, you made me think of this. You're studying Islam? Have you got into Sufism at all, or no?
Not yet. I'm working my way through the Quran. I've read Muhammad Halim's book on understanding the Quran. I have a couple of the hadiths that I need to get through. I've read a couple like introduction books on Islam by a couple different people. I have a Islamic apologetic, or a couple of Islamic apologetics books that I'm working through. Sufism specifically, I haven't gotten to yet. I have read some on Buddhism, Wicca, New Age, Hinduism, a couple different things, but I've got a lot planned for the future that I'll get to Sufism eventually.
Okay, cool. No, because that's the branch that I think that I would be most attracted to as a religion. Sufism is the one that I think appeals the most to me. And it's funny because I feel like when you talk, at least Muslim people that I've talked to, they will actually say that Sunnis, Shiites, and all these other ones like kind of have like the doctrine of Islam, but the Sufis have like the deeper truth. Like it's like where they're going to like the more esoteric, deeper truth of what is in Islam. And I've heard people who are not Sufis say that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Anyway,
it sounds like going into the Kabbalah with Judaism.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's Sufism is like going into the Kabbalah with Jew. That's a great example. Do you have any teachers that you prefer, like as far as like that will teach the type of doctrine that you believe in, as well as people who have good apologetic skills that you?
For teachers, I would start out with Mark Lanier. He's actually a lawyer out of Houston, but he's been teaching, or out of Houston, Texas, but teaching biblical literacy at his church for about 10 years.
Did you say Mark Lanier? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Mark Lanier, spelled Lanier. I'm going to put it in the chat for you.
Thank you.
And let me actually pull up his website, because the biggest reason why I like him is he doesn't push his, I mean, like, obviously he teaches what he thinks is true, but he doesn't push his religion as this is what you need to believe. Mm-hmm. He legitimately goes through and, okay, these are the texts that we have that indicate that, tell us about this. He's very open about, we can make these claims, we can't make these claims. Like when he's doing his classes, he's very much the lawyer. He's very much I can support these claims with evidence, I can't support these claims with evidence, and therefore, he separates them. The other thing I really like about him is all of his lessons are free. So he's got like 10 years worth of lectures on there. The handouts, the PowerPoints, the video, the audio, Old Testament survey, New Testament survey. He's got everything up there. It's incredible. So for teachers, I would start with him. For apologists, I would start with Greg Koukl and his book, Tactics. I consider that a must read, not just for Christians, but for everyone. Because the tactics he gives, they can be used when discussing politics. They can be used in family disputes. They can be used in business negotiations. They can be used anywhere. So I would start there. And then probably after that would be R.C. Sproul, because he gives a combination of apologetics and theology. I'm not Calvinist or Reformed myself, but I have a lot of respect for him and his work. His Crucial Questions series is free digitally, and I think is a great introduction to Christian doctrines on a number of areas.
Good. I'm writing these down. It's funny because I am familiar with Greg Koukl, or however you say his name. I have not read. I have not read Tactics, but I watched a lot of his YouTube videos. But I actually am a huge fan of R.C. Sproul. I have his Foundations DVD series, Consequences of Ideas, Foundations, Consequences of Ideas, up on this wall up here. You can kind of see.
Yeah.
Like
I like that creativity there.
And then I have the ones that are like floating. You see, like they look like they're floating on the wall. So
no, I like that.
But yeah, I have a lot of R.C. Sproul stuff. R.C. Sproul was the person when I first got involved with Christianity. I learned the most from him out of anybody. And he has a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's an incredible teacher. He was very focused, very clear, very thorough. And he was just a joy to listen to.
He's not boring either. He actually
he's not. Especially, I love his meme, probably the most famous one. What's wrong with you people?
Yeah, like not getting excited about it. Yeah. No, I like.
Yeah, he was great.
Cool. Well, that gives me an idea of what where you're coming from with stuff. I'll give a little bit of background of where I'm coming from. I was not raised any particular faith. My mom went to Catholic school, so it was like kind of Catholic, but we didn't really go to church growing up except like maybe on Christmas and Easter and funerals and weddings, that type of thing. And then around 21, 22, I converted to Christianity and I went like freaking crazy. I like listened to probably a sermon every day at least.
Nice.
And I went out street preaching, evangelizing, just like super immersed into Christian culture, listened to different teachers, got acquainted with like the terrain itself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime along that, I just started to, there's a bunch of things that happened, like, but long short is like, I started to lose my faith in the institution as such, whereas I still feel like that Christianity has validity, but there's a lot of things that I think need to be changed
Mm-hmm.
within the structure of the church itself. And I'm not in leadership, so I don't have the ability to make these things happen. So I kind of have to like distance myself and wait it out if it does happen, or like kind of cultivate my own thing in the meantime. And what I've decided to do is kind of try to cultivate that within my own circles with a number of different groups. I'm a part of a Peterson group,
Okay.
who are, you know, atheists, deists, Christian, Jewish, we have
Nice.
Muslim people sometimes, but they're all like come in there. So I lead that group. And then also I have a group, well, I just got elected the other yesterday or the day before, Tuesday, whatever Tuesday was, as the senior warden of my local Freemason lodge. So I'm
Okay.
basically vice president of the lodge that's in my local area around here in Phoenix. And
Oh,
so like,
congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And so like those are like groups that I'm forming myself, where I still am engaged within like the literature of different religions, kind of like studying like you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
not for apologetics purposes, but more of like we have meetings where we actually like somebody will do a presentation on like this particular religion. You can ask them questions, and they get pretty interesting. It's surprising how many people will show up sometimes for these.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like where I am myself. I would consider myself Christian in the cultural sense because I don't think it's really easy to escape it being an American. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have, like you are like for
Yeah.
sure there's like a big part of you that's influenced by Christian culture, even though you don't acknowledge it. I guess more sectarian. I wouldn't say that I'm Christian in a sectarian way. I don't believe that all religions are equally valid. I definitely would put Christianity up above that, but I don't think that Christianity has exclusivity as far as truth. You can find truth in other religions. I think, from my understanding, Christianity is probably the closest revelation of that, of the truth.
Okay.
um, and, and I would describe myself as a progressive Christian, although not what typically is thought of when we say progressive Christian, because that is like has to do with like LGBT rights and all that stuff like that, which I'm more like this. I'm more like, I guess in a nutshell is I think that Christianity is a little bit holding on to things that may be worth holding on to, but they have forgotten why they're willing to hold on to it.
I would agree with that very much.
And then so I'm more of like, the challenge is let's throw it away, or at least have the discussion of why we're keeping it, because if no one can tell, then it's kind of like a superstitious reason we're holding on to these things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I would describe myself as a progressive, is that we need to not just rely, I guess one way to put it is not rely upon the faith of our fathers or grandfathers, but actually digest the faith for ourselves and try to resurrect big, you know, like Jordan Peterson says, is pull your father from the belly of the whale. Like, so like actually pull him out of there. Don't just like have this picture of him where you remember how great he was, and it's actually not, it doesn't have any information that you can use today. It's just
Yeah.
like this thing with cobwebs. You have the romanticism of your fathers or your grandfathers and stuff like that, but also create your own thing, and then like try to conjure them from the back from the grave when is needed, which will be inevitable. So like it's kind of like I want that tension between moving forward and resurrecting, reviving the past
Yeah.
itself, but refreshing yourself on why it is that case. And so that's kind of like my background with that.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.